Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode on a topic that I feel has been touched on, but just enough to leave people a little confused. I honestly struggle with what to call this episode. I didn't want to call it Time Management 2.0 or How to Waste Your Time or anything catchy like that. When I finally settled on, does how you show up matter in time management? I hope that I would be able to convey the thoughts in my head. If you're like me, showing up is really important. And we grew up in a time where time management was something where we could somehow maximize every minute, and some people were good at it and some people weren't. You would have friends that would be able to get done more in a day than you could do in a week. And then other people that, no matter how diligently they worked, seemed to get next to nothing done. They were left feeling somehow less than. Their focus was exactly where they thought it had to be, and somehow that they could manage the time, somehow slowing the clock to allow them to be more productive. When they finally realized that we could not stop the hand from ticking, they either gave up or tried another way, but again, they came from a feeling of scarcity and not enough time. On the other hand, those people that could get a lot of things done in that same 24 hours were led to believe that somehow being busy and filling the time, every second of that time, was somehow a badge of honor. And then, if they were seen relaxing or somehow taking care of themselves, self-care, that somehow they were deemed to be lazy or at least very unproductive. The first scenario is not feeling able to get enough things done has led to a generation that suffers with low self-esteem generally, but especially when they either retire or not expected to work for whatever reason, injury or etc. I have a friend who has an amazing job, great family. He loves adventure, very outdoorsy, very extreme sports, but he had an accident. And he got a concussion and broken leg. So he was off work for a period of time. And this was super challenging for him because he was such a go-getter, and that was a lot of his identity, was being able to set a goal, accomplish it, whether it was work or personal. And since he couldn't do that, his self-esteem plummeted. This mentality of go, go, go has fueled a generation of people that are used to being anxious. We're actually used to it, like part of life, and turning to medication, which is normal now, to be able to function. This is actually called, or twist of this is actually called generational anxiety, where sometimes our kids will actually take on attributes that exhibit anxiety. And somehow, subconsciously, they feel that they somehow will be able to take some of the parents' anxiety away or lessen the weight on their parents. Again, not great results for the parents, not great results for the kids. Then, once we realized that this time management was kind of a losing battle, that the clock is 24 hours, regardless of whose clock or where you live in the world, the mentality then changed to activity management, where we could then, let's manage or prioritize the things that we want to get done, and we're productive if we are able to prioritize well. It's actually in a lot of interviews for jobs, right? Whether or not you're able to prioritize necessities. This was better in some aspects because you had more control. Because with time, you had no control. You were trying to control something that was uncontrollable. And with this, at least you had control over which things you chose. But again, that race against the clock was still there. One of the popular mind frames, and one that I actually subscribed to for a long time, was one that I originally had heard on a talk tape. You know those cassette tapes? A long time ago. It was about a guy who was talking to the owner of a big steel company. And the steel company wanted to be more productive, so they hired a consultant to come in and give them an idea. Well, this consultant said, simply take the six most important things that you need to do every day and write them down. Work on number one till it's complete. Prioritize, obviously, so you work on the most important and most urgent one. And then once that's completely done, move on to the next. Completely done, move on to the next. And the owner was like, really? I'm not paying you for that. And the consultant said, just try it. I'll be back in 3 months and you pay me what you think it was worth. 3 months later, They had such outstanding results from this little tweak that they ended up paying this person a substantial amount of money. So, but again, it's controlling what we do, right? And for me anyway, a lot of times I'll be focused on what I think is urgent, and then somebody else will come in and say, I need you to do this, right? Or family comes into play and we get distracted by other important things. So another way that this management of activity was interpreted is sometimes called the shelving method, where you work on one activity for a specific period of time, let's say 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break, but after that 45 minutes, we put it on the shelf. Okay, so mentally we kind of disconnect from it and then have our break, and then after that, we start a next task. For me, I tried this for a while and it was okay, but I felt that I had too many balls in the air, too many unfinished projects, kind of left in the center of things, right? Left in the middle of important things. So I kind of adopted a hybrid, which I started that way, that time frame, 45 minutes, 15-minute break, but I would do everything I could in my power to get my part done. And then once my part was done, I mentally disconnected and shelved it while somebody else was taking care of their part, right? So, I had to get more information, had to leave messages, had to do something to get somebody else involved, teammate or whatever the case may be. That would work better, but I had to remember to write a note to myself the next day or whatever it was that I was going to follow up on this to make sure things would be completed, because otherwise I'd be thinking about it. And the challenge I had with this one was that because I had so many things on the go, my creativity was hurt. Okay, so I had, I was doing my master's, I wanted to do a podcast, I'm writing a book, I have my family, I have church service, I'm teaching, I'm counseling, I'm coaching. Yeah, there's a lot going on, right? But I was able to kind of compartmentalize, I guess, a little bit so that I was able to focus and be creative in the moment, because I was able to disconnect because I had nothing more I could do with those different projects right then. And I had written down with a reminder so I didn't have to hold that in my brain. So this is a struggle, continues to be a struggle to kind of manage this. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, I found a book in my book collection that I hadn't read yet. And I decided to pick it up and give it a go, but I kind of looked at it and it looked a little old. It's called The Power of Full Engagement by Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. And the subtitle says, Managing Energy, Not Time, is a Key to High Performance and Personal Renewal. I almost put the book down because it said the copyright date was 2003, and I was like, there's a lot of changes, a lot of new thoughts since then. But what I've learned is, like some good old books, the value never dies. So I'd like to read a little bit from this. Part of chapter 1 says, fully engaged energy, not time, is our most precious resource. The authors go through and say that it's more important how we show up, and the energy that we show up with. That's going to determine how we're able to and how well we accomplish things. I question the part of this where they say that energy and not time is the most precious resource. Sorry about that. Precious resource. Because we can increase our energy. We can sleep well. We can eat right. We can eat at the right times of the day. We can do those things that our body react to. Not necessarily what TikTok tells us is the right thing to do, the new and improved, diet or whatever the case may be, but we can do things to manage our own energy, right? But we can't do anything about the 24 hours on the clock. So in my mind, time is our most limited resource, so we need to value it. But I do see what they're saying, that we can value our time by showing up in our time with a more intentional energy. So how do we do that? We get what we pay attention to. If we pay attention to the scarcity of not enough time, we're going to get more not enough time. If we put our energy towards the potential of what could be what could be done with the positive energy and appropriate energy for the activity, then we'll not only accomplish the task better, but we'll also have energy to show up for our families after work, show up for our kids, so that we can be better parents. One side note on this is that when we're talking about time management, it's quite often coming from this place of scarcity. And you can't positive think your way into more time. But when it comes to paying attention, you can control, and I know this is a little bit of repeat, but you can control where you're putting your energy. You can take it from an abundance mindset, and with that energy, there is enough love, there is enough money, there is enough abundance of ideas, of creativity, that whatever needs to be done will be done. And if we come from a place of abundance, then we'll be a lot more effective in that limited time that we have. Okay, so do you see how coming from the abundance can still help other limited resources? In this book, Jim and Tony share that full engagement requires drawing on 4 separate but related sources of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. We got to take them all in, guys. No matter what our background or things that have happened, we got to take care of all the scopes of the health wheel. I used to teach it in class. It's like a bicycle wheel. If one of those spokes is broken, that wheel is not going to work as well. It's going to be a bumpier ride, and the wheel is going to sustain more damage unless we fix or strengthen that wheel. Okay. One thing I've learned that's remarkable is the system in our body that registers pain is the same whether that pain is physical or emotional. We only have one system. There's a book by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He talks about this connection between physical pain and emotional pain. And I'm curious about how much of our physical ailments, especially those that show up chronically, are connected with emotional pain and trauma. Now, I'm not here to say we're broken or ignore those things in the past and just positive thinking, you'll be okay. No, I'm not here to say that. What I'm saying is, let's process what needs to be processed. Let's heal what needs to be healed. We are not broken. Let's forgive what can't be changed and move on. Don't let things that have happened in our past hold us back, and move forward. If we're able to do this, I'm curious how much emotional and physical pain would be alleviated. And through this, how much medication and surgeries could be avoided, and how much a relief on our healthcare system could be realized. So quoting again from that book, the Powerful Engagement one. In order to perform at our best, we must skillfully manage each of these interconnected dimensions of energy. Subtract any one of these from the equation, and our capacity to fully ignite our talent and skills is diminished, much of the way an engine sputters when one of its cylinders misfires. Energy is that common denominator in all dimensions of our lives. Physical energy capacity is measured in terms of quantity, either low energy or high energy. And emotional capacity is measured in quality. It is negative or positive. These are the most fundamental sources of energy, because without sufficient high octane fuel, no mission can be accomplished. I like this framework because these are things that are in our control. We can dictate what we eat and how much we eat and when we eat. And we can dictate how much exercise we do and when we do it, and how much and the type and all those sort of things. We can choose when we sleep. Maybe not how well we sleep because of other distractions, but we can do those things to make it possible to sleep as best as possible. And even if we're not sleeping well, take the time to relax and to meditate and to take care of our self-care. These things will increase our physical energy, and by default, our emotional energy as well. A little side note again, side note of the side note. If you're having a hard time sleeping, don't fight it. Just relax, breathe into it. Don't fight it. Because the more we fight things, the less we're going to sleep, right? So we can also help our emotional energy by looking at and incorporating frameworks that help us manage our thoughts and thus manage our feelings. I had a client the other day Now, what surprised her was how fast she was able to reset how she was feeling because of a framework that we had been working with. I taught it to her, but I didn't make it up. I used somebody else's framework. There's lots of good frameworks out there that can help us. She noticed that by choosing what thought she wanted to give energy to, she also changed how she felt about the situation and how what would have dragged her down before, actually, we spoke about it, but it didn't really affect her the same way. So it reminded me of a story that I've heard a number of times of a grandfather talking to his grandkids, telling them the story about a wolf and how we have two wolves inside of us that are always fighting. And the grandkids said, well, Grandpa, how do we know which one's going to win? The bad wolf, the mean, grumpy one, or the good one that's loving, that reaches out? And the grandfather says, the wolf that will win is the wolf that you feed. So if we feed the thoughts, they will bring us down. If we feed the thoughts that lift us up, we will win. It's really, it's a lot more complex than that in the moment, but it really is that simple in the big scheme of things. The higher energy or vibration that we give to things, the more of those things that we will get. Okay, so those magnets, like attracts like, right? It's science. This isn't like Harry Fairy, think it till you believe it, or all those sort of hurrah hurrah. This is science. This works. You got to put in the work. You can't just sit on the couch and, I'm going to positively attract good things into my life. No, you got to put in the work. A lot of it's thought work, though, and how we think and how we show up. All right, so wrap it up. I'm going to read from a little quote from the book here, and then wrap it up in my own words here a little bit. I will add more value. Like, I've just started this book. I'm like 15 pages in. So if you have any questions or comments, please connect with me on Facebook, Here to Inspire, or Ben Anderson, Instagram, LinkedIn. Reach out to me, all right? And ask questions, and let's have conversations about this, and let's make this real. Like always, if you need help with your mental wellness, if you really are in a dark place, reach out and get help, okay? It takes courage to do so, but you have the courage within you. Reach out for help, okay? I'm going to go back into what the quote from the book is. The mind and the body are one. The primary markers of physical capacity are strength, endurance, flexibility, and resilience. These are precisely the same markers of capacity emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Flexibility at the physical level, for example, means that a muscle has a broad range of motion. Stretching increases flexibility. The same is true emotionally. Emotional flexibility reflects the capacity to move freely and appropriately along a wide spectrum of emotion, rather than responding rigidly or defensively. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from experience of disappointment, frustration, and even loss. Mental endurance is a measure of the ability to sustain focus and concentration over time, while mental flexibility is marked by the capacity to move between rational thought and being going to intuition, and to embrace multiple points of view, accepting more people. Spiritual strength is reflected in the commitment to one's deepest values, regardless of circumstance, and even when adhering to them involves personal sacrifice. Spiritual flexibility, by conscious reflection, reflects the tolerance for values and beliefs that are different than one's own, so long as the values and beliefs don't bring harm to others. In short, it's a little wordy there. So basically, sticking in with what you believe and what your values are, sticking to them, but not in a way that hurts other people, and being flexible and open enough to their values that you can have a symbiotic relationship. Okay. So while we all have 24 hours in a day, the unending list of tasks to accomplish never ends. Obviously, it's unending. I would encourage you to prioritize your work. I would invite you to take care of what's under your control and then to pass on what needs to be done by somebody else. And then through it all, manage your thoughts, which then will manage your feelings kind of automatically. You take care of your thoughts, your feelings come in sync with that. And then your results and your actions will then not dictate, but they will influence how you show up in all the domains of life, which is important to make sure that you're coming from all domains of life, okay? Not just, all work, no play, or all play, no work, or no family. You got to have the balance. Family, in my case, God is number one, family is number two, and everybody else comes before. Because I've noticed when I put God first, everything else falls into place. So, as always, if you're struggling with mental health, please reach out. If you need somebody to chat, reach out to me, okay? But like I said before, if it's, if you're really in a dark place and you need somebody and I'm not close to you, then yes, reach out to a professional, okay? Get yourself help. Not just somebody that calls them a coach, not just somebody even that calls themselves a counselor, but somebody who can truly help you. And if you don't like that person, go to somebody who you do resonate with and can help you, okay? Get help. It takes courage to do so, but you are worth the battle, okay? All right. So if you're having a hard time understanding these concepts or just want to talk or have any questions about it or disagree, I'm okay with having a conversation, a respectful conversation, absolutely. So reach out and serve someone else if you're feeling down, because we are all here to inspire.